5, 4, 3, 2, 1, drop that.
Welcome to the Test Guild Performance Podcast, where we get together to learn more about performance testing and site reliability with your host, Joe Colantonio.
Hey, it's Joe, and welcome to another episode of the Test Guild Performance Podcast. Today we'll be talking with Henrik Rex all about trends and lessons learned from this year's virtual PAC conference. Henrik is a performance engineer at Neotys and has been orchestrating and conducting performance tests for over 10 years, delivering projects in all contexts, including extremely large cloud testing on the most demanding business environments in areas like trading applications, video on demand, sport websites, you name it, he has performance tested it. So he's a great resource and an awesome part of the community. He also is the host of the really cool virtual PAC event that you'll be hearing all about today. So listen up and discover the latest trends and news in the performance testing arena. Let's face it, performance testing is tough. Traditional load testing tools create scripts that are bogged down in data that's hard to read and require a lot of work, even for simple playback. Load Ninja cuts out the dirty work by using AI to inspect and debug your code almost instantly. No coding necessary, no changing of hands or relays between teams either. Give it a shot. It's free and easy to try. Head on over to testguild.com/smartbear and click on the link to learn more. Hey, Henrik, welcome to the Guild.
Yeah, hi, Joe. Thanks for inviting me here to talk about the PAC and all the other topics.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. But Henrik, for the folks that haven't caught you before, can you just tell us a bit more about yourself?
Like you presented, so I've been doing performance testing now more than 14 years, in fact. So doing a lot of engagements as a consultant, and now almost 10 years I've been joining and working for Neotys, which is a software provider, and that builds the solution called Neoload. And since there now, I'm more focusing on working on innovation for the company, looking at what's going to be next, building protocols, integrations, and then of course try to share the work that we've been doing to implement those prototypes or those integrations.
Very cool. So I love how you work on the innovation piece. That's something I'd like to dive into later. But before we get into that, what is PAC? I think, is there an on-site PAC and then there's a virtual PAC?
Yeah, so almost 22 years ago, we wanted to build a sort of conference where we can bring either our partner or the experts of the community to talk about not tools, not sales cycles or whatever. We want to basically bring people in one location and share knowledge, and then building assets that we could share to teach the community. Because I think that if you look around performance testing, there is no real learning curve. I mean, there are a few experts that build some training practices and so on. But if you want to be a good performance engineer, the other solution at the moment is experience on the field, failing, being frustrating, and that's how I think we're learning. So I think we a lot of things is happening on the market. So I think if we all put the effort together and share our knowledge, I think it will be easier for our community and for the new people that are starting to work in the performance world. So that was the idea 2 years ago. So we started with a physical conference in Scotland, where we had around 12 to 14 experts. And since then, we learned quite a bit because, to be honest, it was the first time I organized a conference. So you sometimes learn a lot of things afterward. But then we wanted to have another format of that conference. I think the physical one conference is pretty good, but you don't share lively. You need to exchange information, and then once you have exchange, you build the content that we could share with the community. So that's why we thought that having a virtual PAC that would be essentially a virtual conference where we will stream the content. It will be more easier for every performance tester or engineers to connect and take advantage of those content. So that was the main idea behind the scene. And the way we designed the conference, the virtual one, we thought that let's make because there's a lot of great conference, and I think the one that you've been organized, Joe, is just awesome. So we were quite inspired by what you've done. So we wanted to say, how can we bring people and make a new challenge? So that's why we had that 24 hours approach, where the conference follow the sun. We start from New Zealand and we following the different regions. So New Zealand, Australia, and then we are moving over to the Asian Central zone with India and China and other locations, and then we move up to Europe, and then naturally we finish with the US East and US West, so which covers 24 hours. So that I think that the format makes the conference unique because it's the 24 hours format that makes that, and also having 20 speakers doing started from 5 a.m. my time and to 5 a.m. the next day. It's pretty intense. I mean, for me at least. I hope it was also intense for the attendees as well.
I couldn't do it, but yeah, I love how you said that there aren't many resources for performance engineers, and this is not even though you work for a vendor, this is not a vendor-based event. It's like you said, it's best practices. If you were to look at some of the sessions, they're pretty broad that you could apply to any tool or technique. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we wanted to. That's why when we are receiving the call for papers, we try to remove any solution that are mainly dedicated to a tool, because I think it's not very having a general approach. It's more useful for the community. So Neotys is powering this conference, but we don't push our solution at all. We try to be tool agnostic, so people can present something and share about JMeter or Gatling or Load Runner or whatever. I mean, I think we don't care about the tool. I think that the more excited thing is what those experts has delivered and shared as a pure knowledge or practice approach.
Very cool. And I think you just had one in September, so it was a few weeks ago. You're probably still recovering. I don't know. I would be doing a 24-hour event, but so is there a theme for every conference? And if so, what was the theme of this year's PAC?
So we try to avoid having a theme. We try to cover everything and covering performance in general. So, but this year there was indirectly a big theme. I mean, if you look at around projects, people are concerned about automation. So obviously, automating how to bring performance in a CI/CD in a pipeline. That was a topic that was covered quite a lot during the conference. Otherwise, we try to also have always some talks about pure basics performance, about what are the main things you should consider when you start building testing assets or doing performance modeling. So those, I think, even if it's not innovative, I think it makes sense to remind those important things to the community. And also, we try to cover the new technologies, though. For example, Scott Moore presented a presentation on HTTP3, and also we have a friend of Neotys, Antoine Tolomé, working for Whiteblock, that did a presentation on blockchain performance testing.
How does one become a speaker at this event? Is it just like you said, just submitting a paper, and then your committee decides on what sessions seem to fit best for that year's event? So
we usually do a one call for paper for each event. So we try to leave enough time so people can prepare the presentation and submit the right summary. So for the virtual PAC, I think we started to do the call for paper in end of May, and we closed the call for paper around July, so to get those 20 speakers. Of course, we still, when we do that call for paper, all the different speakers that were involved in the previous conferences, we are still asking them if they are still interested to represent something, or if they have any great topic. But then they still follow the same process. They submit just their presentation, and we select, and depending on the quality, the theme, if it's meaningful for the community. or if you have doubts, we ask more questions about to give more details and understand if the presentation makes sense for this conference.
Cool. So every time I host an event, I host online conferences, at least 3 every year. I always learn something. So was there anything you took away from this virtual PAC that you learned yourself, that you were surprised by, or that you learned more about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the several virtual PAC conference where we have discussed a lot about raw data, the avoiding utilizing averages. So taking the raw data and do the analysis with a BI solution. So mainly most of the presentation that we had in the past were on Tableau and Trivali Aparna explained one tool that I was not aware, to be honest. So I learned other things. So it was RStudio. I think it was pretty interesting because I think there's a lot of potentials behind the tools in terms of automation and do a live dashboard, and so you can make the right decision. And also, I think I really liked also Stefano Doni's presentation. So he has a solution. He built a solution, part of the company called Akamas, that's do auto tuning, and he shared the results about that they took their solution to select the right configuration in the cloud in Amazon's instances to fit to have good performance, but also a cost-effective architecture. So he shared the different results that came out of the solution. So it was really, really interesting to see that depending on the machines, you can have the different type of results. And so I think it was a pretty good presentation. Otherwise, of course, Leandro Melendez. I mean, I really like the way Leandro is presenting his different presentation that he's doing. Very interactive and very funny. So and he did a very a presentation around the cost. I mean, don't automate everything and select the right things to automate based on your risk. So I mean, it was not a revolutionary talk, but the way he presented was really, really very well presented. I think it's if you didn't have the chance to listen to this presentation, I would recommend to look at it, to listen to it.
So that's a point. It is live, but it's obviously being recorded. So if someone wanted to say, "Oh darn, I didn't even know about the PAC," how can they view a previous virtual PAC?
So if they are going to the Performance Advisories Council's websites, so basically it's Neotys, neotys.com/performance-advisory-council. And here you can see our archives of our previous conferences, but also the one that is the last one. And if you click on any of the speaker page, they will see the videos of their session, the blogs. If we didn't start to publish the blog yet, but we usually publish the content direct on that website. So if you want to take advantage of it and listen to the different presentation, you can definitely watch it from our website.
Very good. So if someone wanted to watch that, just I'll create a pretty link, testguild.com/PAC. That'll redirect you to that website. So if you didn't get that all listening, just go to testguild.com/PAC, and that'll bring you directly to their site to watch those awesome sessions. So Henrik, another question is, in automation, the big trend, of course, is AI. In the past few years, AI, machine learning. And, I've seen some of these solutions and they kind of work, but I see AI and machine learning being even better or better suited for performance testing, especially analyzing all the data. So was AI or machine learning brought up in any of these sessions? And do you see this as a trend going forward within the performance testing space?
So the topic has been mentioned by a few speakers. So two of these speakers, and it's going to be Malata Murugesan from Infosys, who explained how to do predictive analysis with the help of machine learning. So based on the results that you have from the QA environment and the results that you're measuring in production, to try to do like a prediction. So they shared a framework that they're using. So it was interested. In fact, it was a great presentation, but it's always, a 45 minutes presentation is always too short. Once you start to go deep on the topic, you want to hear more. So it could be frustrating because you want to say, I want to have more. And I think Alexander Portalco mentioned about it, the same presentation, saying that in the performance modeling world, machine learning is a great tool that could heavily help us. On the analysis side, at the moment, the topic has been mentioned several times, but the main problem, I think, is that to have a really powerful AI/machine learning, you need to keep all the data. So APM products, for example, they do that, but they start aggregating. In the performance world, we try to keep as much details as possible. So the storage of your testing assets could be a challenge after a while. So at the moment, I never seen something really super precise on that area. I think, like you said, I think I agree that technology could basically help us a lot to detect problems, point out the issues, and save a tremendous amount of time. So I'm really looking forward at what would happen next on that topic, either by combining load testing solution and APM, which we're already doing, either with a one load testing solution that has that capability. So that will be, I think, quite revolutionary for the market.
Awesome. So how about blockchain? I've also been hearing a lot about blockchain, and people just think Bitcoin, but it's actually a lot more than Bitcoin. So any performance testing solutions coming out? Not solutions, but do you see blockchain taking more and more people taking advantage of blockchain and then making challenges for performance testers on how to performance test it?
Yeah, I think that the technology as itself has been promoted too much as a cryptocurrency technology, and I think the usage of blockchain could help a lot in other areas. I think I'm thinking of insurance or in manufacturing, either in the media industry. It could be very, very powerful technology to be used there. And I think that there is a big need for performance, and the problem is that there are some challenges. So I've been delivering a module for our product Neoload on that area. I think the biggest challenge that we can have is that traditional performance engineers that used to test, say, application that delivers response to times with I'm sending a request, I get a response, or a synchronous request or response, is quite easy to measure in a sense, or you understand the logic. But in blockchain is definitely different. There is other KPI that needs to be considered. What is response time? So a lot of questions pops up when you start doing blockchain performance testing. And also the other challenge I would say is there is so many framework on the market. So Ethereum is one of them, and that provides, there is relying on Geth, and there is some many satellites frameworks around Geth, and then you have the others, like a Happy Ledger and a private. So it means that even if you have one solution that supports one framework or several frameworks, there still will be a technical effort to make sure that the solution will support the other framework. So that's also like a sort of challenge. And I think also the way we generate the load, there are a lot of things to be considered, especially for the data. You need to make sure that the data is still there. You can easily compare things. And the way you inject the load also is quite a challenge. So there's many things to be considered. I think it's a pretty interesting technology that brings a lot of questions, and I think I'm pretty excited to have the chance to work on that space.
So do you need a different protocol to work with all these different frameworks, or do you use just HTTP? Like, what protocol would you even use to test a blockchain application?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if you take, for example, the frameworks relying on Geth, Geth has the RPC port. So technically, it's just a simple HTTP interface. But then it's a shame that people test one framework, then with the RPC, and then they have to rebuild everything. So I try to do something really general to avoid recreating those testing assets again and again, even if it's the same underlying technology. So in fact, that normally our traditional applications, so either mobile apps or web applications, they will basically interact with network, not directly with a weird protocol. They interact with the JSON RPC interface of the framework. So testing through the RPC is basically the best way to do it, because in real production that would happen that way.
And you also mentioned one of the themes earlier was CI/CD in the pipeline seemed to be a recurring theme at this year's PAC. Is that a trend you see more of? And is that a full performance test, or are people just doing maybe a 1 or 2 user test every build check-in just to make sure that performance itself hasn't degraded over just 1 to 5 users?
I think there's clearly two approaches. I mean, not two approach, but two dimension in the approach. I would say the first one is obviously continuous testing by testing the same type of load, the same type of assets to be able to detect regressions. So here, I think it makes sense to run it to be part of the build. So a lot of speakers explain that approach. And also, I think now with all those containerized technology, I mean, our testing solution doesn't need to be installed and running forever. We can deploy them when you need it. We can destroy them when we don't need it. And we just do our quality gates through that way. But then I think testing only on the component level and not focusing on the end-to-end could be a risk in a sense. So I think depending on what you're doing in your release, there would be, in any case, a need for doing end-to-end testing. I mean, it's similar to a car vendor. I mean, the car vendor purchase tires, some micro components and some engines and some different piece of the car, and probably when they're acquiring those components, they know that their provider has tested it, so it will be comparable to the car manufacturing saying, I don't need to test my car because all those components have been tested separately. So let's avoid testing and let's push this fresh new car in the market. So I think that would be a disaster. I think people will be quite afraid to buy a car that hasn't been tested when it's been assembled. So I think end-to-end testing will always been required, at least to avoid major performance problems.
How do people get to know about upcoming PAC events? Is it always in September, or is it change? Is it yearly, monthly?
So it's in fact it's a bit of a challenge as for us, because we are traveling, we're doing other things. So we try to have to keep the same period of year for the conference. But as I said, we started 2 years ago, so we try to adapt, because we try to take also into account other conferences to avoid having 2 conferences that has a similar format on the same time. It could be quite a shame for our community. So initially it was in June. We pushed it back to September, to virtual conference, and I think we only keep September. So I think September is pretty a right part of the year to have the virtual PAC. The next physical PAC is going to be in February / beginning of March. So for those who would like to be part of our next virtual PAC, physical PAC, we will soon publish on the social networks the call for papers. So we are currently selecting the locations. So I have a couple of already location in mind, and I think it's for those who knows Europe and one of the oldest country of Europe. It's going to be a very, very beautiful area. So we try to select a location that is beautiful, nice, so we can basically stay all those experts together, have fun, network. So we can know each other and talk about performance in a nice and smooth environment.
So, Henrik, I know when I run online conferences, it's always like, oh, I could have done this better, or this worked, and maybe I should do more of that. So, any learnings you had from running 2 PACs now, and how you're going to adjust based on what you learned? Or
I think the format of 35 minutes and 50 minutes is perfect. We try to have those Q&A that are really interactive. So we try to invite our speakers to connect way in advance, so they could be part of the Q&A. So the Q&A is not like just people sending questions and we are asking to the speaker. We try to have like a sort of discussion with several speakers and the audience. So I think the format we was a success on the first one. We kept the same format. What we tried to improve, honestly, was the breaks. Because I definitely I cannot stay connected during 24 hours, so I need to have some 15 minutes breaks between the speakers, between two presentation. I need 45 minutes to eat something, whatever. So during those breaks last year, we didn't put anything to entertain the audience. So we were basically putting just like a slide and say we are back in 45 minutes or back in 50 minutes. Now we try to do a lot of videos. So I think this year I started to do that for your conference, Joe. I did those fake commercials.
Yeah, they were awesome.
And so this year with the PAC, I did took an old commercial from Axe, the deodorant. So I played it and I put for PAC, and I did the same thing for Kinder Surprise, the chocolate. So I did a PAC surprise. So I try to make it fun. So like a sort of so people can be entertained. I made a small summary videos of the previous sessions of the previous year conference. So it means that if you're waiting for the next track, you're not stuck into a single picture, but you have something to watch and to hear. So I think from that perspective, I think that was the biggest improvement, and I think we found a lot of things to be improved from ourselves, from the way we deliver the conference. I think I was quite amazed because I looked at the setup that you had, because the other day you pushed it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I looked at the how you're delivering this, and I say, oh, I definitely I'm gonna learn from Joe, because at the moment I'm looking at my computer, so it's very hard to look at the webcams and the computer when you do the moderation.
Oh yeah,
so
big time.
Have a screen in front of you where you look at the webcam, change everything. So I think I'm gonna definitely implement that and learn from what you shared. Thanks for that, by the way, Joe.
No problem. I tend to go overboard, so I don't know. This might be overkill what I have. So,
but yeah, it's quite a funny to organize that conference. I think what is very hard, I mean, from my perspective, is that we were getting a lot of people that register for the conference, but the number of people connected is. I mean, for 24 hours, we don't expect to have all everyone connected during 24 hours, but we don't have much. We could have more people connected lively.
Yep.
But I think it's a challenge. But we try to figure out how we can improve that to bring more people connected and interacting with us. That will be, I think, for me at least, will be more excited to deliver that conference.
All right, Henriks. Before we go, is there one piece of actionable advice you can give us to help improve our performance testing efforts? And let us know the best way to find, contact you, or learn more about the PAC.
So if you want to learn about the PAC, first I would recommend to follow a hashtag Neotys PAC, PAC, and the website neotys.com/performance-advisory-council, or the link that Joe is going to provide you. And also we have a LinkedIn page for the Performance Advisory Council, so you can basically follow and keep be updated by the latest news on the next conference. Otherwise, what I would share with the community, I would say we have the chance to work in a changing environment, so we are keeping ourselves learning and adapting ourselves. And I think now today, with all those automation, it's our work is. I think cannot be more excited. So we can influence the organization. We are not doing simple tests anymore. So I think I'm so excited to work space. And I think the other thing is what I would try to resolve as much as possible is how could we make sure that we are training and providing the methods and best practices to our community, because for a new engineer working in that space, it could be quite a challenge. So I think that the biggest word to the community would say share. So share your knowledge, share your assets. I think that will be the best way to make sure that all the tests that we are running within our projects or our customers or projects, they are efficient, and that people is not blaming performance testing, but they are saying that performance testing is awesome. They saved so much money and so much feedback or brand recognitions to the company. So I think sharing is the best thing.
Thank you, Henrik, for your performance testing awesomeness. For links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/P like automation P08. And while you're there, make sure to click on the Try It Today link under the exclusive sponsor section to learn all about SmartBear's awesome performance testing solution, Load Ninja. Hey, if you haven't already, if this episode has helped you in any way, why not rate and review it on iTunes? Ratings really matter in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them to help me make the show even better. So that's it for this episode of the Performance Testing and Site Reliability Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Performance Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Make sure to subscribe to join the guild and continue your testing journey. This has been a Joe Calantonio production.